Okay, everyone, welcome back to class. So this week we're going to be talking about rhetorical analysis and why that's important. We're also going to be going over how it can be important or how you can transfer the skills that you're learning in this class, in this particular class, in terms of writing and transfer that to other parts of your life, both in terms of, say, career, other classes, work, your personal relationships. So that's what the lesson is going to be today. And so we're going to get into that in a second. But before we do, I just want to remind you that you do have your annotated bibliography due tonight by the end of day. So that's basically by midnight tonight. So make sure that you get that in. Everything else is all graded. All of the technical issues that were going on with Blackboard seem to be resolved now. So if anyone has any questions about any of your grades or any of the assignments, past or upcoming, please let me know. And we are coming on the last couple of weeks of class here. So we've really been pushing through fast and everyone's been doing a really good job. So thank you for that. And now we will jump into the lesson. So what actually is rhetorical analysis? This is something that you should have gone over in your composition class and if you've taken any other English classes or writing classes here. But I'm going to go over it now so that you can get a kind of a review of what it is and why it's important. So rhetoric is essentially the art of using different techniques of persuasion in speech and writing. And so sometimes that persuasion may come in the form of an argument, but sometimes it's just your interpretation of something or something that you want to state, right? It can be declarative and persuasive, but not necessarily argumentative in the same way. So rhetoric is something that you use all the time. This is rhetoric, this lesson. It's in the form of oral rhetoric, right? Because you're listening to it in the form, like I said in the email, in the form of a podcast. And so that's a type of rhetoric, right? You also use rhetoric in your everyday life. If you're sending emails, right? That's a form of rhetoric. If you're just having a conversation with someone, watching TV, right? The media is a type of rhetoric. And so it's something that you're probably very familiar with. It's just sometimes putting a word to that thing. And so the rhetorical situation is the context in which rhetoric is happening, right? And so this class, right? A class would be a rhetorical situation, a lesson, a course, something like that. If you're going to see someone speak somewhere, do a public speaking event, right? That would be a rhetorical situation. And so within that rhetorical situation, there are a lot of different things that factor into how you analyze that situation. And so you, like I said, if you're at somewhere where someone's giving some kind of speech about something, it's not just what they're saying, it's how they're saying it. It's what they look like, how they're dressed. It's who's in the room. It's how the audience is reacting. It's how you're reacting. There's a lot of things that make up the rhetorical situation. And rhetorical analysis is when you are looking at that how behind it rather than the what. And so context really informs how the information is presented. And so you really want to be looking at context. That's very important in analyzing pieces of rhetoric. All that stuff that's surrounding whatever the rhetoric is. Everything is important in understanding the situation in the best way possible. And so a tool that you can use, something that, again, you probably have heard before in your composition class, is the rhetorical triangle. And so within that rhetorical triangle makes up context, audience, and purpose. And so those are the kind of three main things if you're doing a basic rhetorical analysis that you should be looking at. You should be looking at who the intended audience is, who the actual audience is, and how say you're looking at writing. Let's talk about writing strictly right now. Who is the author's intended audience and what do they do within their writing in order to reach that audience? You're also looking at context. Like I was just saying, context really informs things for the reader. And so you're looking at the situation surrounding the writing, as well as, say it's a piece of fiction, then there's also contextual parts of the storytelling, right? But if you're looking at something nonfiction, say a piece in a newspaper, then the context surrounding the writer actually might be more important in interpreting what the piece is about, right? And then you have purpose as well, which is obviously very important. If you understand what you think and what you interpret as the purpose of a piece of writing is, then you're really going to be able to analyze it in a stronger way, because you're going to see the depth behind what the author was trying to do, right? And there can be multiple purposes in things. Say, for example, looking at something like a movie, right? A movie can be made for a lot of different purposes, right? Because say the screenwriter, they might think that the purpose is to tell a story, and through words, and they have this maybe some kind of message that they want to spread through this film, right? The actor might want to get more exposure and more practice with acting, and that might be the purpose for them of the making of this film, right? The producers might say the purpose of this film is to entertain people, and so we can make money. And so there's a lot of different aspects that you want to be looking at, but oftentimes there's going to be a main kind of purpose or focus that you should be able to figure out if you do a thorough rhetorical analysis. And when you come across different types of rhetoric and different genres of rhetoric, depending on if that is written, oral, or visual, like a movie, something like that, it's going to be slightly different, right? There's going to be things that you can look for, like that audience, context, purpose, those type of things, message, that kind of thing. But then there's going to be particular things that you want to make sure you're looking at the details of, and that's going to be different if it's, say, the lyrics of a song versus just the song itself, the audio of the song versus, say, the song with the music video, with the visual element as well. You're going to be analyzing those three things in slightly different ways, right? And so with something like song lyrics, you might analyze cut out for a second there. If you're looking at something like song lyrics, written rhetoric, it's basically a poem, right? A song is a poem, not basically, it is. A song is a poem, and so you would analyze it in the same way. You would look for things like repetition of words. You would look for things like similes, metaphors, figurative language uses that you think point to maybe them trying to get a certain message across, or just your own interpretation of something, or maybe it just sounds nice, right? You would be looking at things like even something like rhyming. Do they repeat a chorus? Are there particular words that are unique that stand out, right? All of those things are going to help you in understanding that song if you're looking directly at the lyrics. Where if you're listening, you're doing the same thing, right? You're looking at the details, you're looking at specifics, and you're trying to understand the how behind it. But instead of looking at the words on the page, you're now also listening to music. And so it's not just about the words, it's also about what kind of instruments are being used. What does this song actually sound like? Is it loud? Is it soft? What genre of music is it? Is it R&B? Is it pop? Is it rock, right? All of those things are going to impact how you understand the song. And this is probably something your brain does when you're listening to music. You're just not fully thinking about it. And it's not like you have to rhetorically analyze a song just to enjoy it. And then, of course, when you're looking at something like a music video, there's a lot of visual elements that are going to be important. But again, it's those details that you're looking at to try to come up with your interpretation of the piece of rhetoric. And so you'd be looking at things like lighting, what story is actually being told, because now you have the lyrics and you have a visual representation. So what did the artist choose to have that visual representation? Because it might not be the story that you had in your head when you just read the lyrics, or even when you read the lyrics and listened to the song itself. So not only is rhetorical analysis important in things like schoolwork, it can also be very important to understand when you're trying to communicate in any kind of place of work, or even just in your kind of personal relationships at home with your friends, etc. So if you're thinking about a workplace scenario where you might need to have strong communication skills, right? Actually, you know what? I'm not going to be specific because I don't have the best knowledge about marine transportation, etc. But Actually, I do have some good knowledge about emergency management because I have some experience in that field. So, say you are working with a team and you are clearing out basements because of flooding, and people have a lot of damage in their basements because of this flooding. If you are moving objects, say a refrigerator, and you're trying to move this huge refrigerator, and this person was a hoarder, so there's a lot of stuff in this refrigerator, it's taped up, you don't know what's in there, you don't really want to know what's in there. So you have to move this refrigerator up from the basement. And so you're pushing this elevator up the steps with your coworkers. If you cannot communicate with your coworkers how you are stepping, how you are moving with this refrigerator, you're going to drop it and it's going to fall on your coworker, right? So you don't want that to happen. And that's a little thing, and that's an extreme situation. But communication skills can come in small ways or large ways, and it can be little communication, just things like, are you set? Hold here, right? Even little things like that. That is communication. And so the stronger you are at rhetorical analysis and understanding rhetoric, the stronger your communication skills are going to get. Now I'm going to go over the reading journal for this week. And so that's all you have to do for this week, except, of course, your annotated bib is due by the end of day. But other than that, you just have a reading journal to do. There's no video response, discussion thread, anything like that. So for the reading journal, you will see under course content, readings. There's not an actual reading, but I did upload under that folder a painting by Salvador Dali called The Persistence of Memory. And what I want you to do is to write 2 or 3 paragraphs, roughly two paragraphs, maybe 3, doing a rhetorical analysis of the painting. I know I just went over talking about how you can use rhetorical analysis in any part of your life. But right now I want to see you practice, and we're going to do that with a piece of art. So that's all you have to do for this week. Salvador Dali's painting, write 2 paragraphs or so, maybe 3, doing a rhetorical analysis. And that is due by the end of day Friday. And then we are coming to the close of the semester, so keep an eye on your grade book, but everyone is doing really well. Really, I just wanted this class to be a place where you can learn more, get better at communicating and writing. But if you do the work, you will get the credit. So I hope you have a good week, and I will see you next.